Welcome to the Two Literal Podcast, where we're talking all things fantasy, romantasy, romance, and dark romance books. It could be the latest releases, timeless classics, book news, and anything in between. So grab a drink, some snacks, maybe a book, and if we're live, a phone to call in, because Two Literal is on.
I'm Tashee. This is Ricki. We are Two Literal. So, episode 2, we are going to go back into book 1 of the Ruthless Warriors series with our whole recap of Solaria. So, what we went over last time was just some really things that we found important. Um, Elise is introduced to the kings. We have Leon, Gabriel, Dante, and Ryder. And we went over all of her first meetings with everybody and why she has them as suspects in her brother's death. They do not know that she's related to her brother for various reasons. They have different orders, different last names. Elise dyed her hair, things like that. Um, but also, we learned everybody's orders and star signs. I didn't confirm some of the star signs, and that is my bad. But Elise is a Libra with the element air, and she's a vampire. Dante is a storm dragon with the element air, and he is a Gemini. Gabriel, or I'm do Leon because I don't remember Ryder and uh, Gabriel exactly. Leon is a Leo with the fire element, and he is a Nemean lion. And then we have Ryder. He's a basilisk, and he is an earth elemental, and I believe he is a Capricorn.
I'm actually looking it up now. We'll see
I was about to say I'm
what their
fairly
star
certain.
signs are.
I'm fairly certain he's a Capricorn. There's a wiki for
I
everything.
believe it. I figured yep, it just came up.
And I'm fairly certain that Gabriel's a Scorpio. He has two elements, which makes him the most powerful of the, what's the word for them? Quintuplet of the five of them. He has water, and he is a Scorpio, like I said. Oh, he's a harpy. But I'm fairly certain Ryder is a Capricorn. I could have got that wrong, but I'm fairly certain I'm right.
Okay, so Elise is a Libra.
Yep.
Let's go to.
I know because
It doesn't just have them listed, it has them. I have to click on each one. Okay, Gabriel, who I think is a Scorpio. Let me see.
He's a Capricorn.
No, Gabriel says he's a Scorpio.
No. I'm saying Ryder. I was pretty certain about Gabriel being a Scorpio.
Yeah.
Mostly because it was something I read like the other day where it was like, as the Scorpio order, blah blah blah.
Yeah. And their big emphasis was the tattoos. Yes, Ryder's a Capricorn. We already know Leo, Leon. Let's look up Dante. Dante is a Gemini.
Mhm.
We talked about that at one point.
Yeah, because you should be
Yeah.
friends with him. You should like him more. And he's an air
He
element.
grew on me later.
But I do think it's fair that you didn't like him initially. I feel like we've covered that. We also covered that in our recap that as I have reread, I have understood Ricky's point of view more about why she didn't like Dante. He was a little grating, if you will. He was a little much. We discussed who our favorites are and a lot of side characters. Currently, both of us have Leon as the favorite because he is the breath of fresh air, and he's not. His presence is just kind of light in comparison to everybody else, even in comparison to Elise. And she's not a female main character that I dislike because there are a lot of female characters.
There are. I hadn't thought about it until you said that, but that's true.
There's Cindy Lou. She is an antagonist, but I would label her as a more minor antagonist. She's more like petty.
Yeah.
It's more like schoolgirl back and forth. Then we have Principal Grayshawn. He's annoying. You don't actually. I feel like you don't even get a lot of interaction with him. We have the Kiplings. I will not forget them this time.
Yeah.
They basically run all the underground. I'm gonna say they basically like the store of the school.
Hmm.
They the plugs. They the plugs. Just period. Whether that's something small or something big. Um, and by the end of this book, I feel like this isn't a spoiler. They're also Elise's employers, for lack
Yeah.
of a better term. Um, we have uh Miss Nightshade. She is like the counselor at school. Everybody has to have like a counseling situation because they live in such a decrepit neighborhood in general. If you go to that school, that they just feel like it's important for somebody to hold your hand through your experience in school. And we have Professor Titan. He is the potions instructor, and he is. I feel like they give him a little bit of respect, not as much as they give Coach Mars, but they listen, for lack of a better term. Most
Hmm.
I feel like most of them listen to those teachers because Dante and Ryder have said it so many times. It makes them look bad if they don't listen, and
Yeah.
it's more of a pride thing. Um, I feel like that's everybody because there's also Elise's mom. We don't talk about Bruno though, and she's she is currently in a wellness facility, but we have a lot of flashbacks to her and through both Elise's and Garrett's eyes. And I feel like last time, one thing that was kind of big in our conversation was the comparisons we made to Elise and Garrett doing a lot of the same things and kind of being motivated for the same reasons, but still having a lot of differences in that
Yeah.
in those motivations. Was there anything you wanted to add?
No, the only other character is Eugene. I
Oh, I
feel
always
like
forget him.
between Cindy Lou is the smaller antagonist, but Eugene is the smaller like underdog that we see. They're two stories that run kind of, it's like a tangent to the main story.
Parallel,
You know,
Cocoon, whatever.
yeah, yeah. So, and he and both of them stay, pretty active throughout the whole series. Ironically, I didn't see that coming with Eugene, him becoming such a big, character in all of this. So,
I know.
we always forget him. He's still there.
You don't forget him. I just do. You're a better person than me. You forget.
Um. So yeah, next half of it, we see it's a lot that goes on super fast. I
Yeah.
feel like.
Yeah, because when you just mentioned Gabriel in the Lunar Brotherhood, I don't know why that like
Yeah.
feels like it's not. So you're gonna have to catch me up.
It goes a lot happens in those first couple chapters of the second half because we have Gabriel goes from being the a-hole to then, after that situation happened, he like apologizes and they're like good after that. All of a sudden he flips his other switch. You would think he's the Gemini of all of them.
I think it's because he's fighting against his nature. I
Yeah.
I think like he did well in solitude when there was nothing but solitude offered, but then when something
Yes.
else like he got a glimmer of something else, he's trying to revert back to what he knows, but that's not who he is. Does that make sense?
So what is his not caretaker but his investigator's name? I always forget his name.
Bill, is it Bill?
Is it? Uh See, I wrote it down, but I didn't write down his name. Anyway, yeah, that situation was like crazy because like I said, you enter the first half seeing how he's still being mean to her. He basically tricks her into wanting him and then pushes her away again, like, why do you want me? Like, what in the world? But that's what I don't get about these
Bill
books
Fortune.
because I would never. Okay. Yeah, I would never.
Mm.
Me and my husband talk about this because my husband talks about his relationships that he had before me, and a lot of them, when it came to the woman side of it, some of them were like very, he didn't have to do much effort, like he could literally not talk to them until he wanted, like, but I'm like, even before he and I got together, there was some type of niceness going on to where we had built a relationship. There wasn't just boom, I'm
So
gonna call you.
so I think I think age probably has a lot to do with it too. You know, like what you're supposed and home life, like what you think a relationship is supposed to, because like one or two things happen normally. If you have a bad like relationship example, you're either gonna repeat it or you're gonna be polar opposite of it. And I mean, like
Yeah,
that's for everybody, right? But like most people inadvertently fall into patterns of
yeah,
how they handle people. So I feel like it could always just be, I don't know. In Gabriel's case, he didn't really say that his parents were bad to him, his step
yeah,
parents, you know. Um, but he said he felt like a check. But also, part of me wonders if he cut them off or they cut him off or they just always suspected it was coming because he was kind of,
yeah.
you know, because just think it couldn't all be bad. He never said he was abused or anything, and
No,
he was
yeah.
homeschooled for most of that.
Hmm.
He learned how to cook and stuff, but also I feel like that might be like, oh, he was cooking for them, but really, if you consider where he was living, that was probably like basic stuff that they
Yeah,
would teach any kid, like you need to do this.
yeah,
And he probably was a chick in some ways, but that doesn't mean they didn't grow to have feelings. But also, Gabriel strikes me as the type of person that the fact that he couldn't differentiate that
yeah,
made him want to cut connection.
yeah. Um, it does not surprise me that Elise wanted to help save him when the situation happened when he got caught at the lunar. It was like a bar or something, and him and his investigator were just there, and it just so happened that the Oscura clan came in and basically killed everybody and burned down the building. It doesn't surprise me that she wanted to like help him after that, but it did surprise me when all he had to say was "I'm sorry," and that was like it.
Okay, but like, does it though? Because just think of the day he made the soda explode in her face. Ooh, I was not gonna get that out.
Yeah,
The day he made her do that, like he basically kind of flirted with her a bit, and she was kind of standing her ground,
yeah,
but by her own admission, heart racing, getting lost
yeah,
in his eye. You know what I'm saying? Like she was standing her ground, but she was also on the precipice of being like, "Take me, daddy." Like,
yeah.
like you know, like very much like Respucia, like take me right now.
Yeah.
And,
Um,
and to reiterate his point, he told her to stay away. He said, but the moment he was like, the moment I say something nice to you, what did he say? Something like a bitch in heat. I was like, oh my god,
Something like
that's
that, yeah.
so aggressive.
But that's what I'm saying. After she's been burned by him now twice, after he pulled her in, I would be more hesitant of that, especially her with her being protective of herself, just period. You would think she would be too, but she's not like that with Gabriel, and she hasn't been like that with Dante either. And that Dante only did that one thing in the very beginning, I guess, but still though.
And I still maintain that with Dante didn't feel like relationship stuff. It felt more like reclaiming power type stuff, like Faye
Yeah.
reclaiming power, like
Yeah.
because it was, if we're like examining this, a couple of times she done kind of got the upper hand on him and he done let it slide, but it was also like, remember, I'm giving you these
Yeah.
things, you know, like you're
Yeah.
not entitled to them.
And I will say, in Dante's defense, at least they hadn't built any type of relationship yet. Like she had just moved into the room when he did that in the first half of the book.
Yeah.
After they actually got to know each other, he was actually, I mean, he became her source, knowing that he didn't have to if he didn't want to, that kind of stuff.
And
He
I feel
kind of
like
let go after he got to know who she was.
and I feel like currently, I was thinking this earlier. Dante is probably the person who does not see Elise most clearly currently.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wager him and Gabriel are off, and it's kind of weird when they live with her, right? Like
Yeah.
it's kind of weird that they get, I guess, a more intimate setting with her, but they're the ones who see her least clear.
But I think Gabriel, even though he doesn't see her clearly, he knows that there's something to her that doesn't feel not genuine, but just not
It's not
like
right. Like
like
it's not
there's
on.
something missing
It's
because
something
he's
off.
actually they talk about it in these first couple chapters where he's actually asking his private investigator to look into her. They don't say her, but I mean they just mention that he's looking into a woman, and who else would it be?
And then, okay, I want to point out most clearly seeing her is still Leon. I
Yeah.
don't, he's one of those people who has like a great um sense of perception, I guess, about people,
Yeah.
but it's just not the person you would expect to have that. Like, like
Yeah.
um even when we talk about like we covered it, but we didn't cover it. Him asking her to the
To the ball
yeah,
or
Leon's
formal.
not, yeah, the formal. He's not known to be gracious, but he did make sure to go get her the candy bar. And I know that it was more like a look at me type thing,
Yeah.
but Elise is the type of person that a small gesture goes a long way. She don't have a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
If he would have
But
got
he's been consistent in that though.
yeah,
And that's
or
not it's not him to be that consistent, but I feel like to your point, Leon is learning more about himself than it's taking him more to learn and to let go of things about himself than it's taking effort to get to know her because that seems to have just come natural.
just it was one chapter before he bought the dress. um it was the day he asked her to the thing.
Hmm.
Professor Titan told them to get their equipment, and he was like, and if you don't own your own equipment, you can get it from the lower levels. That's for everybody. And she kind of
Hmm.
blushed, and he was like, I wonder why she didn't bring her own equipment. Probably she probably don't have no mentees to carry it around, because I don't do
Yeah.
stuff like that. He was like, I
Yeah.
wonder if she don't have the money or if she just do it that way. But then he went on with his plan to ask her out. I think that might have like sparked something for him to go get the dress.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Outside of her saying
Yeah.
like I might wear sweats, but like I think he was kind of, how you said you don't know how he's a thief. He really be taking notes. He be paying
He
attention.
does. He does. And we finally see the other side of Leon in one of Garrett's perspectives towards the end of this
Mhm.
when Gareth was, because Gareth took the crystal or whatever, not knowing what it meant to his family because he was trying to pay the bill or whatever. And he goes with Leon to the pawn shop to try to figure out who did it, but he didn't know that that's what he was talking about. But that was our first time seeing Leon outside of just being his regular giddy and comicals, even though he was still that in that scene. But like he still, you see parts of his family in him. But it still just always shocks me. Like, where is this coming from? I think I'd be scared of that.
But I mean, I feel like, not to give away too much in another series, I feel like Seth is kind of like that too. He just like you don't know when. I feel like that's kind of part of why they're so dangerous. They allure you with the softness,
Yeah,
and then it just switches on you.
yeah, I agree with that with Seth. But I
Seeing
feel like the difference is in the beginning we see Seth be that person first, and then we see his other side. I feel like, whereas with Leon, it takes us a while to be able to see that come out of him, and it took something drastic for it to come out of him in the first place.
he's more emotionally triggered, I guess you could say.
Yeah, yeah,
Because even just the way he handled asking Elise out and Dante being there, Ryder being there, and Gabriel being there, literally calling Mindy over to put their hands in everybody's face so he could just see
yeah,
Elise. Like, like he was getting frustrated with Gabriel, but he was very much like, I can't take him.
yeah.
Like, I'm gonna have to figure this out without that.
So one thing that, and I don't remember if this scene actually happened in the second half or if it happened in the first half, but I never asked you what you thought about the deal that Dante made with Elise to keep what they talk about in the boat. Is it a boathouse?
Hmm.
In their secret place between them. Like they struck a star deal, so it's like something they can't break.
I think, I don't know. I feel like they both kind of need it, because remember when I was telling you initially that I feel like Dante can't find really his footing, like just
Yeah,
within their power dynamic in the room. Just like
yeah,
he used to be in charge, but he's not in charge. And then whether any of them admit it or not, Elise makes them kind of soft.
yeah,
Elise makes them, yeah, softer. I don't know another
yeah,
way to say it, or vulnerable. I guess that might be a better way to say that. She makes them kind of vulnerable. So I think that this was both of them kind of put in faith that they're going to be a safe place for each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But because I've noticed that a lot of people strike star deals in this series. It's been like 3 or 4 just in
Yeah.
this
We see
book.
a lot of them.
Like
Yeah.
she struck a star deal with the Kiplings for her first mission when she took on the job. She struck one with Dante, but somebody else had one too. Like it's been
And I don't remember
multiple.
who, but was it Gareth? It may
Yeah,
have been Gareth and
Gareth
somebody
did
in
a
one of the
couple of
stories.
them, but you
Yeah.
kept hearing that. Yeah, he did one with old Sal. He did one with somebody. I don't know. It's been so many because every time I'm like a clap of magic, I'm like, God dang, how many star deals in here? Like, and
And
the
they're
star.
so willing to do that and knowing the repercussions of if they break it. And I guess that's the thing. That's why I asked with Elise, because Elise still has Dante as one of her suspects, but it's so, and I know that the technical deal was just for them not to talk about it outside, which probably worked for her because she's not trying to tell anybody what she got going on anyway. But like I said, her willingness to strike those deals, period, knowing that she has a goal in mind, is just, it throws me off every time. And this is my second time reading it, but it was still like, what is she doing?
I but I think kind of to your point, like you said, she's not. It's not really a risk
Yeah,
because if Dante ends up being the killer and she kills him, she not telling nobody she killed him. You know what
yeah.
I'm saying? Like he's not. It's not really a risk.
I guess I just always think like if she did want to, like she hired the Kiplings to get that list. So if she wanted to go and ask for something from them that's kind of investigative as it relates to Dante, she couldn't even say anything about any of that stuff. Even if she doesn't mention why she's doing it or why she was told this, she couldn't say anything.
Yeah, I'm. I am of the belief that the more Elise is figuring out about the males who are suspects, the less investigating she's actually doing.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
there, it's not her investigating as much as things being byproducts of conversation that she's getting. It's not her investigative skills that are so great that made Leon bring up
yeah,
the black card.
yeah,
Like I don't know that. I feel like she's not focused the more we go
yeah,
on with, not that she doesn't care, not that she doesn't find purposes to refocus. It's just she's going through something she didn't expect to go through. Like
yeah.
she's falling in love. Like
And it also surprised me that Dante revealed about his dad and Ryder's dad and them being what is it called? Adversaries, something adversaries.
Astro adversary.
Astro adversaries. So it's supposed to be, fated to hate each other for the rest of their lives. But she doesn't treat either of them any different after that. I don't know if she doesn't, like, deep down she doesn't believe that his dad killed Dante's dad, or if she doesn't see that he could. I know that she sees that he could be that person, but that he could be that person without cause. I don't know if
I
she
think,
really sees in him.
well, you got to remember that before then, Ryder showed her accidentally his dad
Hmm.
too. So I think she just kind of knows that these are two people that had two
Hmm.
different experiences of the same person.
Yeah.
Right. So I think she
Bless you.
just kind of is. Don't be blessing me. I'm just, but I think she's just navigating the fact that, because I mean, her and Ryder don't have a star deal, but I'm fairly certain that his rules would be about the same. Whatever I tell you, you can't tell everybody.
Yeah.
So I think she's kind of paralleling what she knows
Yeah.
and navigating from there. I'm about to sneeze for. I'll take your bless you that time. The first time I just didn't
Bless you.
sneeze.
Thank you. Oh, one of my favorite parts comes up in this is Ryder's breakfast and his eating habit.
Um,
That tickles me so much that he feels like food is just supposed to be fuel for your body
sustenance.
and he doesn't want to put like seasoning or anything like
Okay, because when he be talking about pain, baby, this pain.
both of us are foodies. So I'm like, what is he now? I don't know about the ketchup on my eggs, but Like no salt,
Salsa,
no pepper, no cheese,
if
no
they would put
nothing.
salsa on the eggs, I probably would have messed with salsa on the eggs. That sounds fire, but I ain't gonna lie to you. When he said that, and she didn't do nothing. Like, you know what I'm
She
saying?
did.
Like,
It wasn't anything special.
but like, his food had to be really bad. Like, no, I don't eat
That's
candy.
what I love about his journey is, we don't see it as much, but we do see part of the fact that Dante's aunt or Mariella did something to him. I feel like so much of his childhood was taken that he didn't get to, like, that's a small pleasure, having your food seasoned.
But he did have sweets before because that memory he showed Elise was him and his dad eating ice cream.
Yeah, but I feel like he pushed that so far back that it's like it just wasn't important to him anymore because of everything else he had to do.
Agreed.
And the crazier part to me about that is he doesn't have Mindy's, but he has people that do everything for him too. That people literally were coming to bring his breakfast down. He could have the best of anything.
And he put him out the room and everything when Gabriel made that drink explode on Elise and she
Yeah,
started to cry because she was I understood those tears, okay? She was just frustrated. Like, I'm not even
yeah,
messing with you. And then you come over here
yeah,
and mess with me and then blame me for you messing with me.
yeah.
But
Between that and his Lion King references, which he says is not a big deal, but he got to know Lion King for him to know all these characters.
also, and I would just like to speak to the fact that Leon brings that out inadvertently in everybody because Ryder is the last
Yeah,
person you would. And he was like, calling him Simba and stuff and Mufasa's son. And like, it's funny. It's funny because you're like, you know that? And also,
yeah,
I've been thinking about all four of them, right? Like, one thing that I wanted to do as we read the series was like see where Elise um meshes with them, what they get,
yeah,
because I kind of feel sometimes like Ryder and Gabriel are the same character in a lot of ways.
yeah,
So like um what I've been doing is seeing who's growing from the relationship most and seeing what they
hmm,
provided. Um with Elise and Leon, I feel like, of course he's becoming is the word independent.
yeah. Probably. I was
you
thinking
know,
about that.
like I guess he's becoming more independent, but like I also don't think that that was like foreign to Leon either. Because even just his
Yeah,
interactions with Gareth were kind of like considerate. Because when they went to that party, I think it was the Lunar Brotherhood party
yeah,
where he like flirted with Cindy Lou Who, he was intentional about making sure she wasn't in his uh she wasn't in his like charisma and stuff, and he did kind of
yeah,
cheer him on, or even them being teammates, or even his relationship with Dante. Like he
yeah,
keeps an extra coin in his pocket for when Dante tries to steal his whistle. Like,
yeah,
yeah, it's manipulative, but it's also considerate too. It's something I don't
yeah,
mind giving you. You're gonna appreciate it, but also I get my stuff. I feel
yeah,
like Elise definitely made him take it to the next level. And I feel like Gareth prepared him for it because Gareth told him one time,
yeah,
it's some woman that you're going to have to do stuff for too. The best reward to like work for or something like that. It was something
yeah.
of that. Um, I feel like Elise grows more with Leon than Leon grows with her. Just getting back to happy. Like just
I
finding
mean, yeah. Like past
happiness.
her grief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But everybody else, I feel like Elise is forcing them to grow. It's various ways, but everybody else, I feel like she is the catalyst for some type of growth, with the exception of Dante. I feel like
I
they
was
might
gonna
be
say
even
because
keel there.
Dante is harder because even though, he had his own, I'm not taking away from his trauma in his life, but he's one of the only ones that we see that had a good family structure. Obviously he was in the gang, but he had, his parents, his siblings, his cousins that are still around. He had people that
Uncles,
loved
aunties,
and
they
looked
did
after him.
the crazy granny
Yeah.
and all that.
Yeah. Like he had that background with nobody else that, well, Leon, I guess, grew up with his family and stuff.
But
But he's the
again,
only other person in all of this, I feel like.
Dante still
So
has the most positive family because
yeah.
even though Leon grew up with his family, he feels a lot of like trying to prove himself, and not in the like I want to make my
Mhm.
parents proud way, but more in the you don't see me as a parent type
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. We haven't gotten to the part when we first meet like his dad and his brother and all of that, but you
His
see,
moms.
that he's been trying to prove himself all these years and all of that, between, his moms and their pride and everything. But it's hard to say for me how Elise is making Dante grow at this point in the book, besides the fact that he's just being open to her being free. Um, because I mean, obviously he stopped being a bully, but at the same time, like, what else is she really teaching him besides to open up to somebody else outside of his family?
I think that's big though. Like not even to open up outside of his family, but like I think because some people who are loved so well don't necessarily know how broken people are when they're unloved. Cause like
Yeah,
he was like, "Oh, I would protect you from this, that, and the third," and she was like, because a pretty girl like you didn't need to see ugly things." Is kind of what she said
yeah,
when she asked him about killing people, and she was like, "Look harder. Like that's not what you're trying to make me out to be. Is not what I am." So I
yeah.
think she's forcing him to be, I don't want to say observant because I don't feel like that's a
It's
fair.
subjective.
Yeah, like I don't want to say observant because he is a leader of a gang. Like, he be observant,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
But I think when it comes to her, or I guess romantic interest, because we can argue that him not being observant of her was also a reflection of him not being observant of Cindy Lou, who because all the times that she would like do stuff under his nose
yeah,
to Elise, and then I think at one point, I don't know if it was this book or the next though, that he said something like, um, "Dang, stop picking on her," like something like,
yeah. I think that
yeah,
may have been. Was it during the ball? I mean,
yeah.
formal. I keep calling it ball.
Mm, it's the same thing because that's what Elise called it at one point. And then
Yeah, it may have been during the formal when that happened. And he was probably already jealous because she didn't go with him in the first place. But
yeah, agreed. Um, so I know how do you what in this book, what do you feel like Ryder's transition has looked like, if any?
well, first of all, it aside from Leon, it surprised me, but it didn't, and it only doesn't surprise me because Ryder is the type of man that I normally go for.
I've heard.
Um, I so Ryder being the first person outside of Leon to actually actively pursue Elise and ask her to be his, even if you're not part of my gang, just be mine. Like I'm not asking anything else of you at this point in time. And I think that was very, even his willingness to also become her source so that it's not just Dante's, like you have me too, and actively keep showing her that I'm going to be here for you no matter, whatever you choose, especially with the fact that he doesn't trust anyone. He doesn't have a family that he can trust like that. He has his seconds and things like that, but they're only so far.
You know what?
So for him to trust that with her, for me, that was the biggest thing and the transformation in him.
I would argue that him and Leon don't have any quote unquote confidants. You never hear Leon, because
Yeah,
Leon's confidant, for lack of a better term, was Gareth.
was Gareth. Yeah,
So, but I guess you could argue Dante is his, but Ryder's the most solitary.
yeah.
There's nobody. Even though he's the leader of the gang, I don't. I feel like he's a figurehead. They don't care about him. There's no.
Yeah.
It's more
But
about.
like I said, I feel like again, that doesn't surprise me as much because he's normally the harder exterior, but then, softer to her, but it's just that he's openly being that just in general. Like even seasoning his food and talking about the Disney references and all of that kind of stuff. He's just kind of trying to open himself up more to other experiences outside of what he's always known.
Right.
Um, so it's we see a hint of Ryder's second Bryce, right?
Yep.
Because Bryce is a vampire. It's always weird to me that this is one of the gangs that they're not all the same order or anything, or in the same family or whatever.
They
So Bryce
desperate
is a
for no
vampire, and
reason.
then you see him being jealous a little bit that Elise is has gotten Ryder at his source. He doesn't openly say it yet, but he shows signs of like, why would you pick her? You know?
He was a character we should have mentioned that I forgot about too. And I would characterize him as a little bit of an antagonist too, because a lot of the a lot of what we see of Bryce is nothing good.
Yeah,
Every time Eugene Dipper has something that Principal Grayshine feels the need to announce to the whole freaking school, Bryce is
it's
laughing in the corner, like, "Yeah,
yeah,
I got him, ha ha ha." But also, though, I'm not. I could be getting ahead of myself. I think it was Ryder who said that, like, when he just came to school, he just kind of proved himself, and that's how he becomes second. So there's no um, relationship outside of, like, you showed up, you did what I needed, now you here type stuff.
yeah,
Like, so them. I would assume that probably causes Bryce to always feel like his position is in question should he fall out of favor, because
yeah,
you know
yeah. But I think that makes him even more so like weary of Elise, but also he's like, well, I had to do all this to prove myself, but you're allowing her to not overpower you before a vampire. That's what it signifies, being the source. And she
right.
hasn't even proved herself. She hasn't even done anything to earn this spot. I don't necessarily think that it's about whether or not she's going to take his spot as second, because she clearly doesn't want to be in a gang, and she's continued to reiterate that. But it's just the fact that as your second, like, why do I not get this luxury?
I,
Um,
I don't think it's about her really taking this spot. I just think it's a bigger level insecurity. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah,
Because even with Cindy or whatever, um, she is worried about Elise and Dante, but the problem is
hmm,
more Dante than Elise. You know?
yeah,
Yeah, it's like, oh well, you're talking. He talked to me. He came up. You watched him walk
yeah,
over to me, but it's my fault. He's talking
yeah,
to me. I feel like because when you're insecure, it doesn't matter how the interaction happened. It's the interaction happened. You know what I'm saying?
itself, yeah,
Yeah. So, but I concur. I think he's yeah. I think he's the problem for
yeah.
sure.
And we don't see a whole lot of him in book one, but he becomes a bigger issue over time. We see him like being the antagonist, like you said, laughing at Eugene and questioning Ryder, which nobody else does, and stuff like that. But we don't see a whole lot of that yet. I was excited to finally see Ryder's full. We only see him transform into his order like twice in the book, but
Yeah,
he gets to his full size at one point.
one time in the book, I forgot to tell you this yesterday. One time in the book, he was saying that, like, when he had that vision that he accidentally showed Elise, he said he was gonna go punch the wall till he broke his hand, and then he was gonna shed his skin. And for the life of me, I was like, how does that work? Like, is he shedded? Is he gonna be a big snake and shed it? Like, he just makes himself molt, or can he do that in his, like, fae form? Like, I had so many questions, and I meant to ask you, like, what do you think? I know you like snakes, like, like,
Yeah, but I'm wondering, knowing how mine, so for our viewers, I own three snakes. But yeah, that would be weird. Like, does he have to? Because they shed based on when they grow, but he can grow to any size. So, like, does he just have to do once a month, just go shed so that he won't be sticky? Like, I don't know.
and then it makes me wonder, was that like a literary thing and it just happened to be him and because he's a snake? Listen, I had questions when I read it. I was like, oh,
That's
was it?
interesting. And I don't know if any throughout this series, if we see him actually shed.
I don't think so. I don't think he molted anything. Not that I recall, but I mean, we are still rereading it. Anything can happen. There's a lot of
Like, I
stuff
feel
going
like
on.
every other order we've learned about something that has to do with their maintenance. We learned about the lions and their mane being brushed or combed. We learned about well, I guess Dante doesn't have too much maintenance besides how he restores his power.
I feel like that's the most
Um,
maintenance.
well, yeah, but I mean that's unnecessary, not just him in his animal form maintenance.
Hmm.
Like, we don't learn anything about him shedding or his talons or like any of that. So that's interesting because, like I said, my babies only do it when they get bigger, but Ryder can get to any size. So why does he have to do it if not
Exactly.
to get into his next form? That's interesting. Um, that's funny. We didn't talk about Harvey from the Black Card, and I don't even know what his order is.
Um, I don't. Was it mentioned?
I don't know if it was mentioned. I just know that, Elise somehow finds out that he's in the Black Card based on some of Garrett's, hidden
This is the
messages
first
and
time we
stuff.
met Harvey. I felt like we met him at a different point before he joined the Black Card. Or am I tripping?
No, okay, because she basically starts following him and sees him go to that underground, hidden passageway with her blood or whatever in the wall, remember? The
Yeah,
first note I see is chapter 26, but he was already kind of trying to initiate, and that's why she starts getting closer to him because he asked her if she wanted to go get high.
we did see Harvey. Harvey was somebody Gareth used to interact with.
Yeah,
So, okay, okay, understood. Um, I don't
but
know.
I don't know if his order was ever mentioned.
I don't think so either. I think I think just the whole black card thing just I remember like when I first read this series that everything the black card did was just weird. Like when
Yeah,
Leon alluded to cult, I was like, this is definitely cult behavior. Like,
yeah,
like that was something I thought from the beginning, like, yeah, they're weird. I mean, obviously I thought they had something to do with Gareth's deaths. And I
hmm
felt like that was the more fruitful of the of her investigation, the most fruitful
yeah.
place to look. But also I got confused a couple of times. I ain't gonna lie. Just as the story went on and like stuff would happen and Gareth would tell his point of view, you'd be like, no.
Yeah.
Because it
I
was
think
my boy
I would
was
argue that Gareth was more reckless than Elise is even being, and that says a lot. Because
okay,
Gareth,
so
not only was he super close to these people, first of all, he wasn't hiding his tracks that well. Secondly, he was doing stuff like directly against these people that he's also close to in one way or another, whether it's friendship or just in proximity to these
but
people.
but I could argue that Garrett was more desperate than Elise was.
Well, yeah. I
Because I
mean,
mean,
yeah, I know he had a deadline and everything.
but not even just a deadline, like even Elisa said, like when she gets to the end of this, when she figures it out, there's nothing more. It doesn't bring her brother back. Like
Yeah.
she just gets an answer.
Yeah.
So like even if they kill her, she didn't really plan on doing too much more after getting the answer
Yeah.
anyway. And Garrett's thing is more preventative. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's saving her, and not just her, probably his mom too. Because while they didn't say it, I'm sure Tanya's gonna have to have something happen too. And can he really afford for his mom to be more broken? And not even for
Yeah.
himself, but because of Elise. And then their mom's more broken. Elise is a stripper. She probably end up on drugs. The mom already kind of is the mom drugged out.
They never actually say, but we know that she gambles and does everything else, so it's not a far
So
stretch.
yeah, so I just think his was more desperate because getting caught. But I do agree that he probably should have covered his tracks way better. But
Yeah,
I just think it ended up being he was more desperate
that's
than Elise.
desperation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did it hurt you more to know that we're getting to know this character for him to eventually, like we actually eventually see how he died, or would it have hurt you more to not know who this person was, but know that Elise is looking into it?
I
Because
feel like
we've read books where we get to know the character and then we see their death instead of seeing it in flashbacks where we're actually seeing him form these relationships and stuff and live his life and stuff like that.
I feel like you over here. I feel I can see a lot of ways how Gareth was something that kept Elise positive. So
Yeah,
it is kind of sad to see like, oh, this was before Leon. This was her ray
yeah,
of sunshine, like and how much he loved her. And as somebody who's close to their siblings, I I personally was like, oh, I get it. Like, I, especially being an older sibling, like there isn't like too much you would do to
Yeah.
save your sibling, you know. But
Yeah.
I think I think it sucks just knowing that he gonna die, and then it doesn't help that we're on the timeline. So every time we come back, 17 months to the solar eclipse, I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my god, like
Yeah.
don't be dead, don't die.
Yeah. And like I said, I think it's sometimes it's heartbreaking to listen to or read his perspective because we know that it's coming to that. And he's so joyful beforehand. I mean, obviously he's working on a goal, but he still has good moments. He has good moments with Leon playing
Pitball team.
pitball. He had
Mhm.
yeah, like all this stuff is happening in his life, and he's growing himself. And then we know that it's coming to the point that it comes to.
Yeah, and then it doesn't help that like there are moments of triumph in it. Like the first time you
Yeah,
get the payment in on time for Elise, and
yeah,
we know clearly because Elise never gets on the stage that he did it. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like he did what he was supposed to do, but it's still it it makes you feel like some of the actions that you take are
yeah,
fruitless, or
yeah,
his actions are fruitless.
yeah. Um, what was the biggest point in Elise's growth that you saw that you feel like was in the first book?
I don't really feel like she had growth. Now, I don't mean that like she was stagnant or stationary either. I just don't know if I would consider it growth because mm, it's more exploratory than growth. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah,
almost being introduced to new things. It's not
yeah,
her maturing or anything, her maturing in a resolve, because the only area I think that she could have, because she's pretty self aware, I would argue she's a
yeah,
pretty self aware person. The only place I would say she would probably need growth would be somewhere where it came to like pursuing Gareth's death. But
yeah,
that doesn't go away. That like that's not something, because in my opinion, there were so many times before the formal where Cindy had messed with her and she took the higher road.
yeah. She
Or
did.
even like with Gabriel, she basked in her frustration instead of trying to like combat him.
Retaliate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I mean, part of that is due to her still looking for Gareth's killer for sure. But like also it's like when I told you she was like, no one man can have my heart type of thing. Like
yeah,
she feels like a very self-aware person. I don't know if it's growth though. You know what I mean? Like, and do you feel
yeah. I
the
was gonna
same?
say because being self-aware, even though you're aware of your feelings and things like that, like she's aware that she's grieving and not really dealing with her grief. She's aware that she can be a hothead. She's aware that she's sexually frustrated, all those things. But what is she doing to actually like overcome those things?
Yeah.
Those two things don't necessarily mean that she's progressing in any way. The only way
That's
that I would say is the fact that she is opening herself up just to live still, even after grief. But I don't think it's something she's doing intentionally. It's just something that happens to be happening to her
and it still
because
doesn't feel
of,
like growth. Like,
yeah,
like I think we could argue that like establishing a friendship with Lainey was growth. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
And I feel like she's established a friendship also with Leon, even though she hasn't truly opened up to him yet. But
it's more like rapport
mm,
there, because
yeah,
that feels like the getting to know you stage. Their stuff feels like the
yeah,
flirting, the batting the eyes, and all that kind of stuff. But Lainey, there is like, I think it's a guy that they sit with too when they're on no man's land or whatever,
hmm,
that they talk to, or um I don't want to say being responsible because I feel like that kind of undercredits the person she is. But getting a job,
yeah,
I guess you could argue is growth, even though it's illegal
yeah,
stuff. like,
yeah,
but I mean, like she said, she wasn't gonna be able to afford a gun. My girl needs a gun.
yeah.
That should be a very normal thing that she wants.
So I never really got in the first book if she was straddling between Ryder and Dante because she wanted to remain close to them as suspects, or if it was more, and because she talks about the fact that she doesn't want to choose for them from an emotional perspective either. Um, I don't know which one I feel like is the bigger driving factor in that, because she plays with fire a lot of times when it comes to both of them, like going on both territories and like all kinds of stuff.
I think okay, so I feel like we talked about this a little bit already, but I think that she just doesn't want to be in a gang too. I'm not even talking
Mhm.
about their relationships as much as I'm talking about specifically the
Just
gang.
in general, yeah,
Yeah, the gang portion. But also that was something she shared with Gareth. They were really adamant about I'm not gonna be it, even if I work with you, even if I talk to you, I don't want to be in a gang. I think that might have something to do with their home life. Like too, like that was one of those pacts they made, or like as part of getting out of here, you probably that's probably too big of tie to have. You
but
know what I
then
mean?
I wonder, yeah, and I get Gareth and why he was working with both of them, and I don't even think he formed big friendships with Dante and Ryder specifically. It was more like acquaintances that we see so far. But with Elise, she's showing signs of actually falling for both of them. So if she doesn't want to be in a gang, but she's falling for both of them, even if she was to have them both at some point, why would you think that she would be okay with that part? Like, you don't want to be in a gang, but you know that they are, and you know that they're gonna always be.
And inadvertently that makes you attached too.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it's a personal moral.
I thought that was interesting because, like I said, she plays with fire a lot of times between them, and it's like obviously they're your source, but Dante is your roommate, and Ryder finds ways to be around you. Like, you don't have to do this the straddling that you do all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like, you
you
don't have to go into so and so's territory. You don't have to go sit at their tables. You don't have to do any of that to get your sustenance and even spend time with these people.
and it's only funny because like I feel like the Kiplings kind of I don't know if they said that they were outright taking a bet, but remember when
They
she was
did,
like
yeah,
yeah, like they were outright taking a bet, but they also kind of insinuated that too when she went to go get that list from them and they needed a job, they were like, "Oh yeah, we could bank the favor for later." And they was like, "Nah, she playing with fire right now. She might not make it
yeah,
to the time we need the favor. We
yeah,
get the favor first, and then later do the other part." So like I think even with her being self-aware, I feel like she's maybe not aware enough of
yeah.
what clearly everybody else sees. Like,
It's
cause
seeing, yeah,
yeah,
maybe so, yeah,
cause even I think it was her. She said that when Gabriel pulled up to her that time, Lainey kind of like backed away, like tried to be invisible, like I don't
yeah,
want no parts. Like,
yeah. She feels like she's invincible when it comes to those people, at least, or just period. I would say.
yeah,
Because even the first scene we see in the book with her in that situation, she didn't feel any type of danger at all, and she didn't know what could have been lurking there. You know,
yeah, for sure. I
when
agree.
Ryder pulls up, and she even suspects Ryder of being the king that's over Killblade and stuff, because he reveals that he knows the formula or whatever, and she just acts like it's no big deal, like this is possibly the killer, and but let me go though, because who are you to touch me? You know?
It's 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 very I don't know, like you said, she be playing with fire. She lives life on the edge for sure.
Yeah, yeah. In that, I just read one of my notes that said Lionel A. Um,
A crutch.
Bleaks. I can't say it. Yeah,
A,
because
a
of the
crutch.
stripper that was at the when Gabriel had to go do that for Dante. Remember?
Oh yeah.
And so I can't remember if it was in this book that we even see that Dante has something on Principal Grayshine. We just don't know what it is until later in the book.
Yeah,
But do we actually see him holding something over his head?
I don't think we officially do. I think that comes later when they need a favor.
I was gonna say that even Gareth, as reckless as I feel like he is, I still feel like he was aware that he is putting himself in danger. Like, between blackmailing Gabriel, between, stealing from Leon, working with Dante and Ryder, like, he actively talks about how he feels like this could be possibly something that blows up in my face. I don't feel like Elise has that awareness at all.
I Yeah, but I also feel like that kind of speaks back to what we said earlier. She's just looking for an answer. It does not
Yeah,
matter. Like there's no, I hate to say it, but I don't feel like she expects to live afterwards.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
where Gareth is coming from again is preventative. This is to keep you alive. Hers
yeah,
is you're already dead.
yeah, yeah. That Lionel A fucks. We're gonna have to like bleep that out or something. But that tickled me because of what we see in Zodiac Academy and the emphasis on his sex life so much. I know that we don't see who Lionel is in here,
Hmm.
but uh, that tickles me every time I hear it. And the Principal Grayshine thing and Dante basically holding that sex tape over and stuff.
It's kind of funny because like it's so much, but also Principal Grayshine is so cringy to find out that he's basically like into some weird stuff. It's
Yeah.
just like it's on brand. It's on brand. Like
So he reminds me of Washer in
no,
Zodiac Academy.
he's not my washer. Only because he does not sexually make everybody uncomfortable. He just seems
Yeah.
like a cringy teacher. You know what I mean? Just like a
Yeah.
okay, you're not young.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you watch dang, what's it called? The Great North. Did you ever
Mm-mm.
watch that? Okay, well they were like planning their school prank for another school, but the teacher had went undercover as a student, and all the students clearly know it's the teacher, but he acted
Yeah.
like he a foreign exchange student. He reminds me of that teacher,
Oh,
like
Grayshine. That's funny. And
like
that's
so,
really
head
the
to the
first time that
side.
we see him in person. And it was a flashback. We don't ever actually see him, I feel like, actually interacting with anybody
I feel like he might be
until we see
scary.
that with Dante. Yeah. So you think he just closed himself up in his office all day
Yeah, and then
and
I
gets on the
think it was
intercom?
Ryder who was said, "How did this fuck twit become the principal?" So
Yeah.
he had to be kind of powerful. Or maybe it was Leon. It was one of them. They,
One of them.
they actually have a Ryder has a pretty great sense of humor when you get to hear his inner thoughts.
He does. But that's what I'm saying. I do feel like throughout the book, he starts to try to let that out a little bit more. Even though he has to keep his mask on of being, the leader of the clan and stuff like that.
Hmm.
You mentioned Elise taking the high road when it came to Cindy Lou, but I don't feel like that's necessarily her taking the high road. I think that's more her being passive aggressive. Because I wrote down about the scene where Cindy Lou burns her clothes and she has to walk out naked. But like that's more to make her even more mad because it's not affecting her. I feel like.
I still feel kind of like it's the high road because what would have been the other option? Zoomed out of there, like she said, prove this,
Yeah.
and then you got to consider their culture too. You got to consider like
Yeah.
what being fake means. I feel like that is kind of taking the high road because what she could have did was took the air out of her lungs.
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, you know what I'm
So why
saying?
do you feel like she's keeping Cindy Lou around just to not get in trouble at school?
I, even though she has been so unsuccessful in this, I think in her head she's still trying to fly under the radar.
Yeah.
Like I think she doesn't because the commotion that she causes is stuff that she can handle.
Yeah.
Starting a fight
Yeah.
might be one of those things where like authorities, authority figures. I don't even mean police. I just mean like principal. School. She might get in trouble for that,
Yeah.
and that's and it, and also it could be because Cindy Lou Who doesn't deserve the full wrath of her anger. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
Cindy doing this over a boy, and she over here trying to find her brother killer. She been killed this
Yeah.
lady, and they're gonna
Yeah.
be make it about a boy. I feel like it's also
Yeah.
kind of like keeping a cap on the lid type situation.
Yeah. I get that. Was there any other big moment that you feel like happened? Oh, about the walking out naked. I know that we have not reached the whole Kipling brothers situation, but it's so funny that she's like wondering why he's looking her dead in her eye and not even like like aware of her being naked. I know we haven't gotten to that yet, but I'm so excited to get to that within the next couple of books.
Me
Because
too.
like you said, the reread we see things that our readers, if you're first time reading it, you don't know that this is coming, but we know it's coming, so we can see those things. Like, it's just funny in the introductory period of it, like when those thoughts are first introduced.
And I always think about too, this is prior to them having the mind link situation as well.
Yeah,
And I wonder
yeah,
if that made them like more stoic. They're already pretty stoic, but if that made
yeah,
them more like stoic. I also want to point out they're griffins. Did you know that?
yes.
They're griffins.
I did know that. We didn't really talk about it. Every time I look up a griffin, I get a different image. So one of these days we're gonna have to like try to find images to show people,
What everything
show
is.
you guys what everything actually looks like, at least from the perspective of the writers.
I concur.
It's really interesting. Are they actually triplets or are they just brothers?
No, no,
Because
no.
one is
Because
senior.
yeah, one is middle and one is junior. So I think
Gotcha.
they're different ages.
Yeah, but they're all at school together.
Hmm.
Um,
Or maybe they might be
and that's it.
triplets.
I think they may be, people have them back to
Yeah.
back like that. And I think Griffiths are one of the ones that produce a whole lot like wolves.
Yeah. Because somebody end up with two kids
Yeah.
as griffins. So
Um, what do you think of Leon finding Elise's notes, but not he hasn't said anything yet?
I think he's a thief. But but I think because he's in new territory altogether, he's just learning how to navigate things. Like because I think he can kind of help his feelings the same way she can't. Like, you're supposed to
Yeah.
do this, but this is how I feel, and how I feel is trumping what I'm supposed to do. I mean, I guess you could argue the same point with Gabriel. Stay away from me, but then I come over here, see you don't want to stay away from me. You came over
Yeah.
here because you didn't want to
Yeah.
stay. I feel like they're all struggling with that a little bit.
But I get why he didn't say anything to Elise or even do anything towards Elise. But what I don't get is when we do hear his perspective, he doesn't even mention it. Like it's not even in his mind that
He might have not
this
read
is
it
going
though,
on.
for real.
No, he read it when he first got it out. He almost got caught by the coach, whose name I can't think of, and you said
Coach
it.
Mars.
Mars. I was gonna call him Marks.
Mhm.
Um, he almost gets caught by the coach because he's putting two and two together. He's reading all of the like sequences that she's written down, everybody's habits, and he's like, "What is this?" And then he reads the initials and realizes whose initials it is. So he knows, and then he just pushes it to the back of his head until he doesn't mention it till I think maybe book 2 or 3.
Maybe he didn't think it was important. Maybe he just thought she was a snoop. And
Yeah,
also
but
he's inadvertently observant too, so he might just think that
hmm,
it might have been him reasoning out. They're like, oh, she's more like me. Like, just
maybe, yeah.
let's just be honest. When you into somebody, you can cover up any red flag you want with with enough crazy. Like, you
I
know,
agree with that, but like I said, it's crazy to me that we see when he finds it, you hear his thoughts when he finds it, but then later on, even going to the formal, like everything, he's not even worried about any of that. He's just worried about this dress and his gifts, and was it a pendant, some type of coin he gave her, like those things, as opposed to this that I just found out about you, and it making you even if he felt like it made her more mysterious and more interesting, he doesn't mention it at all. We don't see any back
I,
like follow up to
if it was anybody else, I would be concerned. But all this tracks for Leon.
that.
He probably forgot. Like, he probably truly forgot. Just it's no big deal. Like the TikTok,
Yeah.
it's no big deal.
I feel like that was a cliffhanger that we saw. Ryder and him and his Felix, agreement they made is a cliffhanger that we saw because we just saw it happen and nothing happened after that. And then obviously the big cliffhanger at the end of the book. But like it's so many things that we're like questioning still by the time we get done with it.
I concur. And then it's so many cliffhangers, but there's like, I feel like some stuff should have a resolution or like moving forward. There's none. Like, there's
There's
nothing.
none. Yeah.
There's none. There's nothing like. I mean, obviously it's the first book and it's like one of five, so obviously it's not going to be like complete resolution. But there's
Yeah.
nothing is established. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it's not like
The
she
only
picked
thing
up
I feel
one
like,
boyfriend or nobody's not a suspect, or
yeah,
it's nothing is established.
I feel like the only thing that she has tried to establish for herself is that Leon is off of the suspect list. But that's really the only thing, and we don't even know if he's off suspect list. She just feels like he is
Right.
at
It's
the
not
moment.
established. It's just more
Yeah,
like, I feel that's kind of what we said last time. Like, from the beginning, he pretty much, but that kind of happened at the beginning of the story. It's not like we got
yeah,
a definitive answer at the end.
yeah,
It's just, honestly, it's more about Elise's feelings than proof at this point.
yeah. Yeah, because a lot of it is just because she doesn't even know, I feel like at this point, doesn't even know Garrett's full relationship and history with Leon. She just kind of is feeling his energy out, which sometimes can tell you the truth, and sometimes it's like, I didn't see that one coming. So,
Yeah, and then I
um,
kind of feel like, wh- it's hard that we're seeing Garrett's perspective through his chapters, right? But also knowing that she has that journal, and
yeah,
it's some stuff that does not feel like she's getting anything progressive in it. Because, like,
yeah,
I don't think she's established yet that Gareth and Cindy had a, you know
thing,
what I'm,
yeah,
yeah, had a thing yet. And it's just like, ain't that normal journal behavior? Because even though he put a great like hiding spell on there, I would just assume something physical could be found.
yeah,
So, like,
and and it's even funnier because Leon actually mentions that his friend used to date her
yeah.
and that it ended badly and everything, and she doesn't put any of that together.
And she's always the one that's kind of like bringing Gareth up or looking for ways to
Yeah,
bring him up or things like that. I know she said when she was talking to Lainey and their other friends, she wanted to bring up Gareth because they're the same year, but she didn't
yeah,
have any way to bring him up without it being weird because um she how she know this dead person and anything like
yeah.
that. And I don't recall Gareth mentioning Lainey in any like of his
Like,
backstory.
yeah, his backstory or anything. No, I don't.
Or, I'm sorry, his perspective, whatever.
Was there anything else big in this second half that was like mind blowing to you or anything?
Mm, I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, so you let me know.
Hmm.
Did uh this is where Elise gets to acting all crazy at the end of the dance too, and she's taken away,
Yeah,
right? Um,
yeah.
did we establish why she was acting crazy yet?
It's in the book. Yeah, in the
Okay,
second half, where she
okay.
gets dosed. Now, I don't remember how she gets dosed, but I do know she gets dosed and she gets taken.
I don't remember either, but we can throw some theories and some suspects out since we don't remember. We could
Yeah,
just kind of guesstimate. Um, the two big ones on my list are always gonna be the black card and send a bitch. So
yeah,
uh, I think those would be the most reasonable ones. None of the romantic interest or kings have any
yeah.
reason to, Ryder's
To do
still
her.
waiting to dose her. Ryder's still waiting on her to come back to his house.
Yeah,
Gabriel inadvertently is protective. He don't want to be, but he is.
yeah,
And Dante is just swagged out. He just, hey, I'm gonna get you back. Like, you coming back
yeah.
with me. And Leon is
It's
there
so
with
sad that it happened in that moment though, because that was her first time really trying to let go and just be a normal college student, and then this happens to her. And everybody's been warning her that all these questions you're asking are going to get you in trouble, and then for it to happen at that moment, which I understand that as somebody that's going to do that, this is obviously the time that your guard is down. But it was just sad to me that that was ruined for her because this is her first time, not even just in adulthood, but just period,
yeah,
because she didn't have a life to where she could let loose like that. And her first experience with it is tainted by this. Um, so yeah, we see her dosed with the kill blaze some kind of way, and she gets to actually see the king that she thinks is responsible for Garrett's death, but she doesn't know who it is. All she sees
they're
is a
cloaked.
figure. Yeah,
For lack of a better term. And I feel like that's a pretty good roundup of this book. What are you looking forward to in next book?
Well, like I said, all the questions that we didn't get answered. We see that Felix Oscura asked Ryder to kill somebody um, in return for him delivering Mariella to him, to Ryder, who has done something to him. We don't necessarily see all that happened, but she did some crime against him and has been in hiding ever since. So we see that deal being struck. We don't get an answer to. We don't get an answer to Leon and finding that note. We don't get an answer to who is the Black Card King that she finds and who he has working for him on campus, because right now all she really knows is Harvey. She knows that there are other members, but we don't see anybody else
Not
that's a
named.
member that's actually, yeah, that's actually like identified. So to see, because I'm like you, is Cindy Lou one of them or anything? Like we don't know any of that. So those are the couple of things. And then I'm interested to see, just like she saved Gabriel, Gabriel comes back and saves her at the end, and how that relationship transitions, because as of this point in the book, he's saying he doesn't want to mate, but he knows that that's going to be his mate at some point. But he's obviously growing closer to her and growing more protective of her. So I'm interested to see how he's going to react to her relationships with these other people, even feeling like he has a claim on her.
I concur, for sure. I'm still kind of like you. Like, I want a definitive answer about something. It doesn't have to be everything, but like if we could
Yeah,
get somebody off the list or
yeah,
put a new suspect on, even, or
yeah,
any relationship growth and personal growth, because I feel like we both kind of said Elise did not grow this book. There was nothing we
yeah,
considered growth. And that's not to say where she is a bad thing either. It's just I feel like we can speak to some maturity and growth in everybody, just not to her or main
yeah.
characters. Also though, because we keep making these parallels, there was none for
hmm
Gareth either.
As far as growth, no, I don't think so either.
So it's kind
The
of
only thing that I think they both did was try to be, like I said, normal college students. And what I mean by that is just
ex-
experiencing life, like learning to laugh, learning to go have fun in some ways. We see Garrett go on a date. We see her go on a date. Like those things they didn't really
or
get to
even
do.
Gareth doing pitball or whatever.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think it'll be a good thing for us to keep comparing and contrasting Elise and Gareth with their
yeah,
growth, or not even just their growth, just things that they do the same but for different reasons, or they do different but the same. Just whatever
yeah.
whatever that looks like for them. I think that'd be cool.